Welcome to the Author to Authority podcast. And today I am thrilled, so thrilled to have a fellow publisher with me. And I want to introduce you to Victoria Wolf. Now, her and her husband, Rich, met later in life and have been making up for lost time for the last 10 years. The one love they both shared, food, brought them together and still takes them on great adventures today. From creating a line of gluten free baked goods to their how to cooking videos, food is at the center of their lives. And I know this is kind of a strange bio because we're going to be talking about publishing, but food may have brought them together, but they do run three businesses, which include book publishing, content creation, and art. So I am so excited because they also live the RV life. So I'm sure Victoria's going to share a little bit about that with us, and I might ask her a few questions. Anyway, welcome to the show, Victoria.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be on.
So first, Victoria, tell us a little bit about yourself. I shared a little bit in the bio there, but how did you come to into book publishing? And of course, we want to ask, what is the good, the bad, and the ugly of living an RV life?
Oh, okay. Well, I have answers for both. Um, I've been a graphic designer for 31 years. I'm in my 31st year. And in 2016, which, what was that, 6 years ago? So 20 something years into graphic design, I had never done a book. I never thought about it, knew nothing. But I had this friend, she's an editor, and I met her through networking. And one day she reached out, and I'd done some other work for her. And she's like, hey, you want to do a book cover? And I'm like, oh, yeah, I'll do a book cover. I've never done a book cover before. And I did that book cover. It was wonderful. The book won awards and I was hooked. I was like, where has this been my entire career? And so I slowly kind of got out of some of the other types of design I was doing. And so now, for the most part, I exclusively do books. I do covers, I do interiors, I do ebooks, I do author websites. I also do some book marketing. So my whole world is authors and books. And to say the good, bad, and the ugly of RVing, we're kind of weird when it comes to RVing because there's not much we don't like. We love everything about it. I mean, now here's a good example. This will probably encapsulate it all. Today, Rich, my husband, was in the shower and they've been working on the water here at this park we've been at a few weeks. They sent no notice today that there would be no water. And I'm on a Zoom call, right? And he sticks his head out of the bathroom and says, hey, could you put on the water pump? They shut the water off. So, halfway through the shower, he had no water. So those are some of the things you have to, deal with when you live full time in an RV, but, very minor considering all the benefits of, seeing new places, meeting new people, all these experiences we've had. So yeah, we love it.
I don't know if my husband and I could survive being together in such a confined space. That would be interesting.
That is a concern for many people I talk to. Rich and I, we've always been good like that. We literally are together 24/7. And we are in 400 square feet. My office is here. You can see behind me. I have a slide like that, except with a desk in it. That's where I am. And then he's up at our bar, I guess, which is by the kitchen, and that's where his work. So we're in the same room. He says hello. So I mean, we're that close with each other, and we're good. But that is not for every couple. Cannot do that. So.
Well, I've always joked with my husband that when he retired, he was either going to have to get a part-time job, a ministry, volunteer somewhere, or find a whole bunch of new friends because he was not going to be spending 24/7 in the house with me.
So I guess I don't think full-time RVing would be for you guys then.
But the funny thing is now
each of you had your own RVs. You had a couple Class Ds or something. You drive one, that might work.
The funny thing is now, though, my husband's retired. We've moved across the country. He's gone back to school for a second career. And so he is home a whole lot more. But, we have two stories. My office is upstairs. His study area is downstairs. And we're making it work. It hasn't been the way I thought it would be.
Oh, well, that's good. I'm glad it turned out better than you thought it would.
So, Victoria, I wanted to have you on today because as a publisher, one of the things that I talk to my clients about a lot is their covers.
Mhm.
And, we have these discussions because I get their covers. We have a designer, we get them. And so we have these discussions around the covers. And some of those discussions are pretty interesting because they have some ideas of what they want on the cover. And I have to have these conversations that go, yeah, I I know that's what you want, but
Yeah, that's a nice idea, but how about we maybe go in this direction? Yeah, I have those conversations with my authors as well, and I think the most important thing for authors to know is the cover has a job. It has one job, and that is to get someone's attention and make them curious, create curiosity, interest. That's the one job of a cover. Just like the back blurb has a job. It's not to explain everything that goes on in your book. It's to further that sale. You start the sale.
It's a hook.
Yeah, it's a hook. Yeah. And so if you look at it from that perspective, you may, it's like as I was writing this book, I had this butterfly that gave me inspiration, and I don't mean to diminish butterflies. I'm just an example. And I really think I want the butterfly on the cover. That's wonderful. I mean, I wrote a book. I understand how important it is that you are on your cover or your ideas are on the cover. But that butterfly is not going to have the same meaning to a potential reader that it has to you. They're never going to get that meaning unless your book is about butterflies. That might be a different situation. And I think one of
or
the
there's
challenges,
butterfly in the title or something like that.
oh yes, there's something. And then you might be in an area of, well, we're a little obvious here. The title has butterfly, but that's a whole different conversation. But as an author, to be able to let go and let the cover designers, take the lead and go in and take you in a direction that they know it's going to do well by you and your book. Now, I'm a very intuitive designer, and I'm also a designer that doesn't, it's not my way or the highway at all. It's a very interactive process between me and the author. I try to strike that balance for what they want and what I think is going to sell their book. And some authors, they love that process. Other authors it's a little bit more difficult, but in the end, we eventually get there. For me, cover design is a process that I don't think many authors understand what they're going to go through during it. You start off in the beginning maybe a little bit defensive, or not all of them. There's different situations, and you're not sure. It's like, well, I want my book to look like this, and then you go through the process. It's a process of discovery and comparison and contrast. And then when the author feels that their needs are actually being, listened to and met, and we've looked at that option, and maybe that option hasn't worked, then we get to a cover that they love. It is very, very important to me that every one of my authors love their cover. Because the last thing you want to do is be out selling your book and going, oh, yeah, here's my cover, here's my book. And you're a little sheepish about it because you're not proud of it. You have to own that cover and be proud of it. But, book covers are not necessarily 100% what the book is about, in total. It's a feeling. If your book cover does not elicit an emotional response, you're not going to sell as many books. So and these are all partly my opinion and partly kind of industry opinion as well. So
one of the conversations I have with my clients is the fact that there's things that they cannot be emotionally attached to in this process. And the cover is one of them. And you are correct. Like, usually I try, like, my questionnaire includes questions like what colors would you like? What would you like to see on the cover? But one of the questions that I ask them is to go to Amazon, and it doesn't have to be a book in their category. It just has to be 3 covers on Amazon that they really love, that they feel reflects their style. And again, it doesn't have to be in the category their book is. And that we found that question has been really effective, because then we get a real general sense of what style they're looking for, because they can describe it to you. And they're seeing one thing in their mind, and you're hearing something totally, completely different to, what they're trying to describe to you. So we found that question has been very effective in, creating a cover that they really like the first time through. Now, usually we create 2 or 3 covers, and, we let them give them a choice before we start the revision process. But have you found something like that works for you?
Yeah, I have a few different tactics. I always do a Zoom cover call. It's kind of a cover concept call. I do Zoom. I used to do it by phone. Now COVID helped with the Zoom, but I prefer the Zoom because I can really connect with the author and I can read body language when we're talking about things because I am an intuitive designer. And what I find, I ask a lot of the same questions. What do you like? What do you don't like is probably the most important question. I ask them to look for books that they like and then books in their genre too, because one of the goals too is to make sure that you don't want to genre bust and have a book that doesn't look like you belong in your genre, but at the same time you don't want to look like you belong in your genre so much that you get passed over because you look like everybody else. So the goal is to always stand out in your genre but still kind of belong there. The color question, I always ask the color question in case anybody is interested. Over years of asking this question, the three colors that people say they don't, I always ask what they don't like, not what they like, are pink, brown, and orange. Those are the most popular I don't like colors. I don't think I've put pink on a cover in the almost 300 covers that I've done. But if somebody asked me for pink, if it was appropriate, I would use pink. The other thing I do is I probe and I ask a lot of questions in my call because, and I find this with fiction more than nonfiction, many fiction authors they don't look at their book from the perspective that I'm looking at. Like I can spend a half an hour with an author and finally get to that little tidbit of information that, Jenny wore an orange dress and that's when her life fell apart. And I'm like, oh, orange dress. Okay, so there's something I can pull out and possibly put a cover around that. And so and that happens sometimes with memoirs. Sometimes there's a snippet or just a little gift in there that the author has but doesn't know they have. Because I like covers that have a little bit of maybe like an Easter egg on there. It's like you look at it, it gives you an emotional response, and then as you're reading the book, you immediately flip back to the cover and go, oh, now I understand. That's what that's from. That doesn't work for every book, but it's kind of interesting when I can do that.
So I want to switch gears just a little bit because we do have some people in the audience here who are, okay, I don't recommend it and I'm sure you don't recommend it, but they may be wanting to either try to do the covers themselves or they're trying to think through what would make a good cover. So I wanted to cover this topic because, well, first of all, it's going to be a good episode for me to share with my clients as they're preparing, as we're getting to that stage in their books. But what would you suggest that my audience thinks about? And now these people would all be nonfiction authors. They're using their books to build a business. So what would you recommend that they think about as they prepare to do covers for their books?
I think the most important thing is for them to try to step outside of their perspective because they're the author of the book and put themselves in their client's perspective or whoever's going to be buying their book. Nonfiction books that business people use to help sell the rest of their business are a little bit different because there's usually a branding aspect. If you're a speaker and you're going to be talking and selling books at your talks, you're going to want your book to look like it belongs in your business. And so that's just a little different. But you can do that in many ways. It doesn't have to have your logo all over it. It can be maybe some of the similar colors, similar fonts, look and feel. That's where aesthetic is really important. So you want to be able to look at that objectively. And then the most important piece is, what is the emotional response that you want to convey with your cover, and kind of come at it from an emotional response or a curiosity. What's going to stimulate people to pick this book up, and because you want them to pick it up and flip it over, and once they do that's your sale right there. That's what you have. Both sides. Yeah, they'll flip through it, but most people aren't going to read. Maybe table of contents might convince people, but you want that book picked up. And I'd say, be as objective as you can. And I think that's hard for authors. And when you're showing friends, colleagues, family, whoever you're showing sample covers, don't ask them, what do you think of this cover? What do you think of if you say that, what do you think of this cover and how does it make you feel? Or what do you think of this cover and what do you think this book is about? but the how it makes you feel is probably the most important thing. And then you can get some good feedback, because that it doesn't matter if the person is looking for a book in your genre or even knows what your book is about. If you hand them a cover and they go, oh, this makes me feel a little anxious, and you're hoping for calm and tranquility, then that's really good feedback, or vice versa.
Yeah.
But and I think for one thing I want to say about nonfiction books for businesses, there's a lot of authors are very reluctant to put their picture on the cover, because there's like, I'm not, Anthony Robbins, or I'm not so and so. But if you are an expert in your field and you're going out on the speaker circuit and you're going to be selling books that way, it's wholly appropriate to put your face on the cover, because you're selling you. And I know a lot of people are very wary of that. I'm working on a book now for someone who was very wary of putting his face, actually, waist up headshot on the cover, but it just makes sense because he's selling his expertise, and it just wouldn't have worked any other way.
Yeah, and I don't think there's a steadfast hard rule in that one. It's not that you have to put yourself on the cover, but you can't be afraid to put yourself on the cover either.
Exactly.
I've done books that are both ways. Well, you might
I can
probably
see
get
it, yeah.
them, but some of the books, like Selling from the Heart, that's the brand, the person, everyone knows the person behind the brand. And then other cases, I've got 2 female writers. We put their pictures because it was their story. And so I think you have to look at it from both ends of it. And again, be objective with it. Maybe try a cover with your picture on it, and try a cover without the picture on it, and see which one you think would be the most beneficial in terms of getting your message across.
Yeah, and I comparison and contrast are 2 of the greatest tools in cover design, because what I do for my clients is, if they come to me with an idea, I'll flesh out that idea so they can see it, because they have to know. It's a very exhaustive process, not exhausting, but exhaustive process working with me, because at the end, I want them to know that they picked the right cover, that they saw their idea and either decided that was it or it wasn't it, or they saw 5, 7 different concepts, and they know that they're working with the most appropriate one. The other advice I would give people who are doing their own covers is, take a Facebook poll, put the 3 covers in one image, just put 1, 2, and 3, or however many they are. Do not in your description say, this is my memoir, or this is my this, and tell everybody about your book. Just say, here are 3 book covers. Will you tell me which one you prefer and why, or which one you prefer and how it makes you feel? And that's going to give lots of feedback. That's going to be important.
Yeah, I do that with my clients all the time. And the one caveat that I add on the end is, usually the one your audience picks is not the one that you love the most.
That does happen quite a bit, and then you got to be prepared for that. But you're putting a book out for the market. The market is deciding who are you. I mean, if you want to say, I don't care what the market decides, I'm going to go with what I want, then don't be surprised if you possibly don't sell as many books as you wanted to. It's it's a sales process, it's a marketing process, even though it's a book.
Well, and that's why I tell my clients, you can't be emotionally connected to it. If your goal is to sell books to build your business, you have to create the book the way the reader wants it, not the way you want it.
Exactly. Or at least enough to get the reader interested to pick up the book. Yeah. There's a happy medium there sometimes. So.
And again, like you said, they have to love the cover. They have to be able to love it and own it. And I totally agree with that. But I've had some clients who were so emotionally connected to it, and when the results came out the other way, they're like, they couldn't believe it. Like, why weren't people voting for this one? And so we had to have these discussions about the fact that you can't be emotionally connected to it. And, I had one person who decided they wanted the cover the way they wanted the cover. I'm like, that's okay. This is your book. You've got to love it. You've got to own it. But for me, the goal is to create a book that's going to sell. So, some of the things you talked about there was strong cover, strong back of the book description. I actually write most of the back of the book descriptions for my clients. I have a lot of other team members who do a lot of other things, but I tend to be the one who writes the back
It's
of the
so
book.
important. It's make it or break it on a book sale. Something, it's
Yeah.
that important.
And even the table of contents.
Mm-hmm.
Your table of contents has to be strong. I find that if it's vague, vague chapter titles that don't really tell what the book is about, if someone goes and looks at that, I mean, I know I've done it. I've opened up a book and the table of contents was vague, didn't really tell me what the book was about, why I would want to read it. There was no chapters there that grabbed my attention. I just closed it up.
Yeah, and readers are looking for something that's specific. It doesn't mean that you have a bad book if somebody passes because they didn't see what they were looking for in your table of contents. It means it's actually a good thing, because then your book did not connect with somebody it was never going to connect with anyway. So you weren't speaking to your tribe. But it gives people that ability, because the last thing you want is somebody to pick up your book thinking it's going to be one thing, and it turns out to be maybe slightly different, and then you don't get a great review either. So as targeted as you can be, all these things we're talking about helps you be more targeted and more authentic, and people will understand whether they want to buy your book or not. And that's always a good thing.
You say that, and I almost wanted to laugh. When I first got into writing books about 10, 11 years ago, I was in network marketing. I wrote books to help my team sell and recruit people. So my books were really clear. It was called Network Marketing Recruiting: How to Sell $10,795 a year in MLM Network Marketing.
Wow, that is very clear.
Yeah. I got a few 1-star reviews saying the book wasn't what it said it was about. I thought this was about, and I'm like, well,
there's always one or possibly more, but I mean, yeah, you can.
And I just had to laugh at it, because I'm like, seriously? Like, did you not read the title of the book? I could not make it any clearer that this book was about MLM and network marketing. Like, I did not give these books vague names that, to hook to clickbait, right? No, I couldn't get any clearer, and I had to laugh at those.
That is funny, but I mean, you're always going to get people who want your book to be something that it isn't, but hopefully you can diminish that by being more clear. But obviously in your case, you still got some. And you laugh about it now, which I think is kind of fun. So,
well, I think, this is a little off topic for today, but the topic of reviews is you are going to get the occasional bad review. And I think it almost validates your book when you do, because those people who are your true tribe, who get your book, they will actually defend the 1-star reviews, because they're like, this person doesn't know what they're talking about.
Yes.
If they knew what they were talking about, they wouldn't be giving this book a 1-star review. So I tell my clients, have a couple 1-star reviews. Okay, now if the 1-star review is, the cover's horrible, the formatting's bad, and the writing is filled with grammar mistakes, okay, that's something we pay attention to. But my books don't have that, so that's.
Yeah, those are the only reviews you really don't want. Everything else serves a purpose of some way. It does.
You know what I love is the 3-star reviews.
Yeah, it's like a little non-committal. But it's like, some people are more bombastic with their reviews, and some people are more reserved, and it doesn't mean that what they're reviewing wasn't great for them. It's just, that's where some people fall. It's interesting. I mean, I watched this one RV YouTube show, and similar to what we do but different, and they do restaurant reviews all the time. 8s, 9s, and 10s. That's it. I'm like, that's not a review. 8s, 9s, and 10s. Where's the 3s, 4s, and 5s, or even the 6s or 7s?
Where are the places to avoid?
Yeah, it's like that doesn't tell me anything. As a food person, it doesn't tell me anything. But some people are like that. They want to stay at the front, the top of the reviews, or the bottom, or somewhere in the middle, which is kind of interesting.
Well, one of the reasons why I like 3-star reviews is because they usually give you a reason why they didn't give you a 5-star review.
Yeah, that holdout. Well, I would have given you the 4 or 5 if only this had happened, or I would have found this. And they're like, oh.
But sometimes I find that feedback very valuable.
Yeah, it is. Any feedback like that is valuable for sure. Yeah.
So I always check out the 3-star reviews, because that usually will show me, what was missing from the book. What that little thing that just could have put it over the top. Now, I mean, some of the suggestions you get are just
ridiculous.
Yes. But every once in a while you get those gold nuggets where you go,
Yeah, it can make you decide whether to buy it or not buy it, or to, and a lot of times with 3-star reviews, I would take them with a grain of salt. And then when I'm done with the book, I'd be like, oh, okay, maybe they were a little right. But typically 3-star reviews are no reason not to buy the book, I don't think. Just somebody's perception.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we've got a few minutes left here, Victoria. How about you give me some parting thoughts there that you would love to leave the audience with?
Okay, about anything or about books?
Well, let's keep it to books, because we could rabbit trail very easily, you and I.
Okay. Well, one thing I wish everybody would know, if they're not going to use a designer like myself, don't go to Fiverr. I've had too many Fiverr stories that I've heard, especially if you're doing a children's book. Fiverr illustrators are much less expensive, but they create a whole host of problems.
The other issues.
Yeah, and they don't hand over source files sometimes if there needs to be changes. Because I do children's book layout, I don't do illustration, I do layout, which means I take all those illustrations, and sometimes there's a lot of problems with those illustrations. But I'd say if you're looking at where to spend, there's a lot of good places to spend your money when creating your own book. And I would say editing is the most important place, and then cover would be second. Mm-hmm. If you can afford to have a cover professionally created, it's great money, especially if you're selling it within the confines of your business. Then it's a business expense, and it's
an investment.
It's an investment. You want the best you can have. Another piece of advice, especially for nonfiction, is you're going to want to change your cover up every 3 to 5 years just to keep it fresh. You'll probably have a second and third edition if it's a book that has staying power. And that'll help you down the road too, because you don't want to cover from 5-7 years ago, because styles change, people change, tastes change, and you want to stay relevant.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Victoria. So if people have enjoyed this conversation today and they want to connect with you, how can they get a hold of you?
Oh, I have multiple ways, but I'm going to say from the book world, wolfdesignandmarketing.com is the website. We have a portfolio up there of all the designs and other information, which will be updated in January with everything I've done in this year, which I do about 60 to 80 books a year. Mm-hmm. Covers and interior, some just interior, so it's quite a bit. And if you're interested in RV life and cooking, we are on YouTube at GF Explorers, which G and F stand for gluten-free, because I am gluten and dairy-free, and all our recipes are too, but don't let that scare you, because we tell you how to make them gluten-full and dairy-full as well. And you can follow us around the country and see what we're doing in RV, and we have fun with it for sure.
That is so awesome. Well, thank you so much, Victoria. Well, this has been Victoria Wolf and Kim Thompson Pinder on the Author to Authority podcast. I want to encourage you. I don't do this very often, but I encourage you to get my Author to Authority book. If you've enjoyed this conversation today and you really want to take your business to the next level with the book, that's the book on writing a book that takes your business to the next level, and it is available on Amazon. But if you search it, Amazon tip, if you search it, put Author to Authority Kim. You type in Author to Authority, the book will not show up. You type Author to Authority Kim, the book shows up. So,
gotta love Amazon.
Thanks so much for listening, and we will see you on the very next episode. Bye now.